These are the plaintiffs, Ron and Tracy Tabb. Ron says the defendant used to bartend for their restaurant, but left because she was accused of serving alcohol to a minor. The minor then drove her car, smashed it up, and was thrown from the vehicle. The Department of Alcohol Enforcement fined their restaurant $3,465. And that's just what they're suing the defendant for today. This is the defendant, Amber Marston. She says the girl she served was a regular at the bar, and all the bartenders gave this girl alcohol in the past. The girl started to give her attitude during the night, so she cut her off. Then she watched her go into a car as the passenger of someone who wasn't drinking that night, and they left. The fine levied by the Department of Alcohol was issued to the restaurant, not her, so it's not her responsibility to pay it. She's accused of serving up a lawsuit.
All parties, please raise your right hand. Be seated, come to order. Litigants have been sworn, Your Honor.
Thank you, Douglas.
You're welcome.
All right. Ron Tabb and Tracy Tabb, you are suing Amber Marston, your former bartender, for $3,465, the amount of a fine that you received from the Oregon Liquor Control Commission for serving an underage patron. Tell me what happened.
Well, we had, Amber was working for us beginning December of 2011. And
you own a bar?
Yes.
Okay.
We have a sports bar restaurant. We employed her for nearly 8 months, 9 months. And
now, you actually know her father?
Yes. Her father and I were colleagues at Pacific University. He's in charge of admissions, and I was a head track and cross-country coach there.
Okay. So go ahead.
Okay. So anyway, her father approached me. He knew that we had a sports bar restaurant about the possibility of us hiring Amber to work for us. And Amber came in and we offered her a job. When we offer employees job, we have a job description. We have a policy manual, owner's manual that we have the staff sign off on, so they understand the rules and regulations. But before we even get to that point...
Did she sign off on one of those?
She does.
Do you have that with you?
I do. Okay, Exhibit E. There you go. So it's pretty simple, to the point.
Okay, so you have them all sign something that says, servers and bartenders, among other things, must ID anyone who orders alcohol who appears to be under the age of 30. Any employee who does not ID a customer who appears to be younger than the age of 30 and is drinking alcohol will be fired, no warning. Okay, good.
Okay, so that being said, that our rules are much stricter than the state of Oregon.
You know, honestly, you should just really ID anyone who looks under the age of 50, because there's nothing more flattering than getting ID'd at a bar. It's total flattery at this point.
We often do.
Anyway, so go ahead. So what happens? And the drinking age is 21 where you are?
Yes, it is.
Okay. So in any event, let's get to the point here. What happens?
So anyway, we had a patron who had come in. The person who came in is someone who Amber had ID'd, who my wife had ID'd, who I had ID'd, and several other of our employees had ID'd this person. And she was passing off a fake ID on all of us. It had passed me. I missed it. She had missed it. Amber, we'd all missed it. But she had been coming in for about 2.5, 3 weeks watching the NBA playoffs with a group of young kids, and they were all in their early 20s. Like,
do you now know that all of them were underage, or just that one?
We only know the one.
You don't know about the others?
Yeah, we don't know about the rest of them because they weren't involved with the investigation.
So why don't I hand the floor to you for 1 second, because when the event happens, it happens when you're there. Okay, you're the bartender, and what happens? This woman who you all have carded before is there, and do you card her that night?
I did not card her that night. We had recently been hiring new people, and so I was working 5 nights a week and closing by myself, and it was a Saturday night, and I had another group in that had a woman who was extremely intoxicated, and her friends were all okay, but she wasn't, and I was not focused on the girl over here who I've ID'd before, who's responsible, pays her bill, never have any problems with. I was more concerned with the girl over here who was intoxicated and her friends were trying to get her beer.
Okay.
So that was that night, and she was, like he said, she was a regular. She'd been coming in for a few weeks, and I had ID'd her multiple times.
Does anyone have a picture of her?
I do.
There's actually a picture of her in the investigative report, right? Does anyone have a... I want to see what you have and if it's better. Yeah. And when I say investigative report, it's because the state of Oregon got involved when something bad happened. She looks like she's 10.
Right. So why would I not card her in the first place?
Yeah, why wouldn't you?
I did.
But you didn't card her that night.
No, because I'd carded her so many times
So what's
before.
the policy? You don't card them every time? You're supposed to though, right?
Well, no, they don't card everybody every time, and neither did I.
No, but what are you supposed to do?
You're supposed to card someone when they walk in, and apparently I was not aware of this, but
Not
apparently
when they walk in, when they order the alcohol, because that's a restaurant too. So
Correct.
so you're supposed to always card. So that night happens and this girl ends up getting into somebody's car. How do you know whose car she got into?
she was with a friend who hadn't had any alcohol that night, and her friend was the driver, and I saw
How do
them.
you know that her friend was a driver? Did you physically
I
see it?
physically saw them drive away in the car because I was keeping an eye on it because
Okay.
I couldn't leave the bar because
So what happens? Those folks get into a car accident?
I don't know what happened after that.
Well, what happened?
The defendant was a bartender at the plaintiff's restaurant, allegedly served a minor. The plaintiffs got fined, and the plaintiff wants the defendant to pay. Let's listen.
Apparently,
How did the state find out? Something happened.
the victim, or the girl that Amber served, about 3 hours after the fact that she left the bar restaurant, was involved in a single car accident. And so
Was she driving?
Yes.
How old is this woman?
She's 19.
She's 19. She left the bar at what time?
She was cut off at 1, left at 2.
And she gets into an accident at what time? 5 in the morning?
3:30.
3:30?
3:45.
The accident was at approximately 3:30.
So who called the state? The authorities that were at the scene of the accident called it in because they saw that they knew she was underage and intoxicated? She get a DUI?
Yes, she did.
Good.
Okay, so we received all this information after the fact. According to the investigation, the accident occurred at 3:39 a.m. in Washington County, a few miles from where our business is located.
All right, so what ends up happening, though? The government ends up getting involved. The alcohol regulatory, what's it called?
The OLCC, the Oregon Liquor Commission.
Gets involved, and they do an investigation. They talk to you. You tell them what?
They asked me if I carded her, and I said, you know what, I don't remember. I was the only bartender on. I've carded a lot of people.
And did you remember, or you didn't?
No, I absolutely remember. I know
You remember that you didn't?
I remember that I did not.
Right, I got it. Okay. And then, so you end up getting fined.
Yes.
Okay. Have you been fired? I assume you've been fired.
No.
Get out of here. You people still work?
No,
she gave her
absolutely
notice.
Okay,
not.
she gave us, I didn't fire her because of the relationship I had with her father.
That's not what he told me.
Whoa, wait. I'm sorry. You quit. You don't work there anymore.
Right.
That's really what I meant. I was wondering if you were seeing each other every day. All right. So you end up getting fined. Are you and the father still okay?
Yes.
No, they're not.
How do
Don't
you know?
kid
You don't know.
yourself.
Don't talk to him directly.
Sorry.
Have you talked to the father?
Not since the incident, but I have a voice recording on my phone regarding because I wanted to work with Amber, and I even made a proposal with Amber to split the. I felt bad for Amber's situation because Amber had been going through some difficult times. She had been arrested for suspicion of DUI.
Your Honor, may I say something about that?
If you want to.
I would like to. I was arrested but not convicted. They dropped it. I only blew a .03. The legal limit's a .08.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Now, let me ask you a question. You got fined personally
Yes.
by the Liquor Commission.
For the same issue.
How much did you get fined?
$525.
Did you pay that?
Yes, ma'am.
Now, you got fined $3,465 from the Liquor Commission.
There were two different citations that we received. One for serving a minor. We can only have minors in our establishment until 10 o'clock. So we received a fine for that. And then we received a fine for serving a minor.
Alcohol.
Yes.
So your fines were $3,465. And what
Yes.
you're suing for here today is that you feel that because it's her fault, she should pay the fine.
The fact that she knew what the policies were, she knows the laws in Oregon, and she also knows what the laws are required by our business. And she failed to obey those laws.
No, I understand that entirely. The problem I'm having, and I want to hear you respond to it, the Liquor Commission issues two separate fines, one to her for doing it and one to you for employing somebody who would do it. The whole idea is that you ended up employing somebody who did it. That's why they're fining you separately. Otherwise, they just fine her. So why does she have to make good on that?
We felt that in this case, we asked Amber to work with us because we felt that we could have been exonerated in this case had she helped us find this girl who was using a fake ID. If we were able to come up with the ID that she used on Amber, on us, that we would have been able to become exonerated from the fine.
That's what you asked her to do, trace this girl for me, and she said, no, you're on your own.
Yes.
Okay, now you tell me what they asked you to do. According to you, they asked you to do something different.
They asked me to ask one of my friends, and they had one in particular in mind, to say in court for OLCC during their hearing that they were there that night and they saw me card her.
And you said to them?
I said, absolutely not. I'm not going to ask one of my friends to perjure themselves on the stand. And that's when they offered me the deal to work off the fine. And I told them, I'm sorry, I can't work for free. I have another job.
Welcome back to the People's Court, Harvey. 11 years. So should this woman, the bartender, have to pay the restaurant owner for the fine the restaurant owner had to pay?
I think so. I think it's the responsibility of the bartender, for sure.
Why is it the responsibility of the bartender? The bartender had to pay her own fine. Is the bartender also responsible for the restaurant's fine?
I think the buck stops at the top, but I don't know why they're being fined double.
Because each one did something wrong, although that's actually a pretty good point. Should the bartender have to pay?
Yes.
Why?
Because he should have carded him.
She should have carded him, is true. So it's not the restaurant owner's fault, it's the bartender's fault.
Yes.
Fair enough. Going inside the courtroom.
Your Honor, we never made a proposal like that. We proposed to her, I said, Amber, we will not take action against you if you have a witness that saw you ID this girl, because your stories are not adding up with the Oregon Liquor Commission.
I don't
and with the
understand.
police.
She said from the beginning, at the first conversation with the Liquor Commission, she told them, I don't remember carding her.
No, she said at the beginning, she told them that she did ID them, and she told the police that she ID'd them. And then,
is that accurate?
I told them that I'd ID her multiple times, but I never said I carded her that night.
Okay, either way, look, here's where the problem lies. You know, one of the reasons I wanted to see your employee, is that what why do you have that? Give that to me. When I'm looking at this, one of the things I was looking for, which you might want to consider putting in here, by the way,
sure,
is whether or not they have to indemnify you for fines for things that they breach. If your employment contract says to them, if this happens, you're absorbing it. Well, then they're on notice so that if it happens, and frankly, it'll get them to make it not happen. If it happens, then they know they have to take the fine, but it's not in here. So what I'm left with is what's appropriate. I have a liquor commission that heard this entire story. I have her being fined separately. And then I have you being fined for having an employee that did that. The whole point of that fine is to make you hire people who are more careful than Amber is. And that's the design of the fine, to punish you for that. It's not something Amber has to absorb. I find in favor of the defendant.
Find out how surprised the plaintiffs are at the decision. Come on in here. What do you think?
you know, it's Oregon Liquor Commission, and the fact that, you know, the bartenders can basically put a business in jeopardy by not doing their job.
You going to change your contract?
Oh, definitely change
What's
the contract.
the new wording going to say?
They will be accountable for any fines that we incur.
Okay. All right. Head around the corner right there. All right. Come on in here. Would you have signed a contract if it had made you liable to pay those fines?
Absolutely not. No. I get my own fine. And if they were that concerned about someone being carded every time they walked in to order liquor, they would have someone at the door. And that would have protected them and protected me.
Is this a problem, underage people coming in with a fake ID? How big a problem is this?
I'm sure I had a fake ID when I was underage. I'm sure it's a huge problem.
Pretty honest. Harvey?
Here's the deal. My parents owned a liquor store, and this actually happened to them multiple times, where somebody would come in with really good fake ID and they looked like they were adults. It doesn't matter. In most states, if the store or the restaurant or the bar or whatever, if they serve a minor, even if the ID was really good, the store owner, the bar, still on the hook. That will do it for this case. Litigants for the next case on the way into the courtroom right now.